and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. With me is Brian Twining. We're talking the Road America race, the Kwik Trip 250. We're talking bets. We're talking DFS. Qualifying is in the books. We're very excited to jump in, and obviously not so excited about the Xfinity race. Before we do all that, how's it going, Brian Twining?
Oh, I'm doing a lot better than you are, Kyle. For those of you that do not follow us on Twitter, Kyle had placed a pre-race wager on Kyle Larson sometime yesterday, or actually Thursday.
Yeah, it was Thursday. They mentioned that he was going to be in one of his old cars from last year, and they had formatted it for the Xfinity race, and he was plus 275, which isn't a great number, but for the field and what
and it
kind of
closed
driver
at
he
like
is.
150 or 175.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt great about it, and of course he's dominating the whole way, and then freaking Cole Custer's brakes just like go out, and apparently he can't stay on the track. And at this point, Larson has over almost a 3-second lead. He's flying laps, and then they do a restart, and Gibbs, of course, gets the lead. Larson goes right around him, takes it back, and then I'm not sure what happened, but Larson, just after just hitting the turns perfectly for 99.9% of the race, misses 2 turns. Gibbs goes around him, and Larson can't get the spot back. So,
I mean, you got to hand it to Gibbs.
Incredibly irritating, incredibly frustrating. Even more frustrating because I did have an outright on Custer as well. So I was like, this is great. I have Custer here. I have Larson here. One of these two guys should win as long as it's not Gibbs. And of course it's Gibbs. So it was a rough Saturday, and Brian's like, now you want to record? And I'm like, obviously. So,
qualifying went pretty well. I mean, there's some interesting numbers now that qualifying's over. I mean, we got some good value on a couple of the guys, and DK is going to be really interesting with the way the field is set.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can find some value, because obviously we will hop over. We will build the lineup on DraftKings. We'll give you all our thoughts there, as well as update the betting board now that qualifying is in the books. Where is the books moving, everybody? It was interesting. We talked a little bit on Wednesday about the Toyotas, especially the JGR Toyotas, and their kind of lack of success. And sure enough, 13, 14, 15, 16, they're right. This didn't look great. Kind of interesting. So I guess we should throw up the DraftKings slate, give the people some thoughts, and then build a lineup. So let me do that real quick. Kyle Larson, the guy aforementioned, failed to seal the deal for me today. Starting third, 11-4. Chase Elliott looked really fast. Obviously won last week. 11-1. Kyle Busch starting 13th at 10-8. Chastain 10-3. Hamlin 10-2. If we stay in, north of 10K, thoughts, feelings, anybody you're specifically targeting, all that good stuff.
I mean, well, I had him on an outright on our race preview show. Ross Chastain starting 12th at 10-3, I think is still well in play. For some reason, Trackhouse wasn't as fast here during practice and qualifying. And then it is interesting to note that Kyle Busch, he was seen making some adjustments to the car. I think he was having to transfer out an engine, so he might be starting from the rear of the field, which, I mean, if you're getting him at 10-8, starting in the back of the field, knowing he's probably going to crack the top 10. I mean, depending on if they adjust his starting position,
I don't think they're going to. That's the thing, though. He's still going to be starting 13th, so you're really only getting 3 spots, which is not great.
So I probably wouldn't go to him. And then of the 2 favorite guys, I'll say Ross Chastain is my favorite in the 10K and above.
Yeah.
That said, if I'm picking the 2 most expensive guys, I'm going to go with Chase Elliott. He's driven better than Kyle Larson of late in the Cup Series. He's just been overall better at road courses this year than Larson in the new car specifically. And I find it really interesting that Larson is still priced as if he were running like he was last year. I mean, we spoke about this earlier in the week, but
yeah, we've noticed it a little bit on the betting board, but DK is still running out Larson like he is the dominant force. I'm with you, Elliott over Larson. Just better form, better in the new car. Obviously got back in his old car and refound his form. So there's clearly something with the new ride that it hasn't clicked quite yet. Yeah, Chastain is probably my favorite too. I'm still buying in on Trackhouse. They've been so strong, so solid. They've performed at road courses throughout the season. I expect them to be fine come race day.
And Chastain was the third fastest during practice. So it's not as if he didn't have speed. It's just like qualifying. All it takes at this particular track too is you miss one turn and you're missing out on, a few tenths of a second, which is obviously the difference here.
We'll dive down. We'll hit the 9K. We got Truex starting 15th at 9.6, Logano 18th, 9.4, Blaney 9.2, AJ Allmendinger, one of I think 5 or 6 guys running double duty this weekend. Ran in the Xfinity, is running the race, obviously trying to get more reps in these corners and these turns. Starting 21st at 9,100 is going to be compelling and obviously a popular option. And then William Byron starting 29th at 9K. Interesting option, obviously. Isn't really the road course maven some of his Hendrick teammates are. But starting 29th, even at 9K, that could be a person that becomes very popular and probably deservedly so.
Yeah, anytime you can get a driver of his skill level starting where he is at a pretty good value point at that particular starting position, I think he's going to be in a ton of lineups. Maybe he'll even find his way into ours. And then Allmendinger complaining again that he didn't like his car during practice and qualifying. And we've seen how that's worked out for him. I mean, he finished top 10, I think, the last time he was at a road course. In the Dinger, he's always been really good at these types of tracks. He's performed pretty well in the Cup Series this year. So him starting 21st at 9,100 is pretty good. And then the 2 Penske cars, I just don't know how good they're going to be here. They've been so up and down this year, probably even more so than JGR, that I don't know if I could trust them this week.
Who do you think is going to be more popular this week? Byron, 99,000, starting 10 spots, or I guess 8 spots back, or Dinger, who is a more of a road course maven, obviously starting a little closer to the front. But, when you're talking about $100 difference, I think those 2 names are going to be very interesting. And I think one way or the other, they're going to be represented in a lot of lineups.
I feel like more people would go to Byron because of the 8 spot differential in their starting position. And he's probably a more recognizable name for like novice Cup Series fans. I mean, Allmendinger doesn't run full time, so he's not in the limelight as much as Byron is, especially driving for Hendrick. So I feel like maybe Dinger, you're getting a little bit of discount on ownership for the race.
Yeah. I think that will be interesting. I'm going to be monitoring that for sure. We'll dive down into the 8Ks. We got Christopher Bell, Kurt Busch, Tyler Reddick starting 4th, Austin Cindric starting 5th, and your guy Chase Briscoe starting 2nd, 8,300, Alex Bowman 8,200, and then Kevin Harvick starting 28th, 8,100. Another guy that I think a lot of people are going to find themselves gravitating towards just because of his ability to move up on the racetrack and a well-known name.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with my best bet earlier in the week was Tyler Reddick, the top 10 at -115. That number is gone. If you had any thoughts of trying to bet that still. And then Chase Briscoe, we got that at -115 also for him, the top 10. That number is gone. Starting 2nd, he was the fastest car in practice. He was the fastest car during qualifying until Chase Elliott was the last car on the track to put in a lap and wound up beating him by like 2/100ths of a second or something ridiculous. So both of those guys, I think if you want to start a lineup and get discounted rate on somebody who could potentially lead laps, I think they make a ton of sense.
Yeah, so if you are going that route, Reddick starting 4th, Cindric started 5th, Briscoe starting 2nd, Bowman even. Obviously, the track is 4 miles long, so there's not going to be a lot of laps. But if you are going to pick someone to try and dominate laps early, not Elliott or Larson, who are you picking?
Mhm. I'm going to have to go with Briscoe just starting on the front row, because it is a situation where if you can jump out to the lead, then, you get, 5 to 7 laps by yourself. As we saw it in the Xfinity series, Larson was able to run away from the rest of the field. And then, you get into a pit cycle, or there's a caution, or you miss a turn or something. But I do think early on cold tires, where there's a little bit more grip, when it's a little bit cooler out, I think Briscoe might be able to jump out to the lead early, lead a few laps, and maybe stay there, which is the only reason why I would go with him.
Yeah, I think Cindric's really interesting too. He's had some success on road courses, and hasn't been his best form lately, but I feel like he is kind of ready for a big week. The 7,000s is where things get really interesting. Daniel Suarez, who I love, one of my outrights, 7,700, starting 17th. Easily find myself getting there. Eric Jones starting 27th. Almirola. We'll even dip into 6Ks just because I think that the difference is very minimal and there's only a couple names. Stenhouse, McDowell, Keselowski. We talked about Bubba a little bit, but he's just, I don't know if he's ready for that road course limelight. Christopher Buescher, not thumbs down, we're thumbs up this week. Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, and Todd Gilliland. Who is the name that's jumping out, or maybe a couple names that are jumping out in this range for you?
Honestly, it's probably going to be a bit of a contrarian play, but Chris Buescher at 6,300, I know he's starting 7th, so you have a lot of room for him to go backwards. He's been great at road courses. He showed it during practice. He showed it during qualifying. He finished 2nd at Sonoma. I mean, this guy has been fantastic recently. So his ownership is probably going to be extremely low because of where he's starting.
Yeah.
And these courses are not built to have the huge placement differential and going backwards like an oval is if you get caught up in traffic, or you get behind a slow car, or people are drafting on you. So, I mean, if Buescher can keep his tire on this week, I think he's in line to stay where he is and finish inside the top 10 again.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I if you really want to get contrarian, you can skip over even these names and go straight to Buescher and then just load up on guys starting near the back of the field and try and get all that placement points and fastest lap points and all that good stuff.
I mean, I will say Brad Keselowski is an absolute non-starter at 11th, because you know for sure he is going backwards. I don't care. Like, there's no way he's finishing above that.
Yeah, I think Michael McDowell's in the same bucket. Man, Stenhouse is compelling, but man, that guy, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And then it gets really interesting if you want to get real aggressive. Some of the ringers, if you want to call them ringers. Some interesting names, some less than ideal names, but some of these guys can be a difference maker. Joey Hand starting in the top 10. I doubt he'll be in many lineups, if any at all. So that will be another interesting one. But there is.
I was just gonna say, you could start a lineup with Buescher and Joey Hand, and then just build from there, and probably based off of just
Chalky
those two guys.
McChalkerson the rest of the way. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Speaking of building a lineup, let's build a lineup, Brian. I will give you the tea. It was a successful week last week, so that means we're probably due for a little regression this week, but that's okay. Who is the first name going into our lineup?
All right, this is gross, but give me Chase Elliott.
Love it. I love it. All right, let's see here. So I think that really limits what we're going to do near the front of the field. I think we have to start in the back, work our way up. Let's put in William Byron.
Ooh, I like it. I like that a lot. All right, let's see. Let's see who we got here. Man.
Byron didn't have a successful race last year, but he did lead 15 laps.
And he started on pole.
So he was fast. He just had issues and ended up finishing near the back. But yeah, I think he's a really strong option.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good choice. I think for me, to kind of play it safe and middle the field, I think we're gonna add somebody we didn't even talk to or talk about going down the list, but that's gonna be Austin Dillon starting 20th.
Okay.
He's sitting at what is he at? He's at 6,200. I mean, the salary savings there I think is great, and then I feel like that low teens is kind of his like median point. I don't see him really moving further back or like cracking the top 10 per se,
Yeah.
but finishing inside those teens, I think it'll be good. And at that 6,200 mark, that's kind of all you want.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. Obviously, he's cheap enough where you don't need him to be a record breaker. Just be solid and you'll be fine. Trying to find some stats, but it's just not pulling up for me for some reason, which is really fun. So that's cool. Man, so we have 8K per driver. You know, we can be aggressive. We can sit back a little farther. Let's see here. What names? You know, we have the salary if we want to go up to like a dinger, which I think I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna throw him in there.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you feel like he has the ability to contend. He's starting 21st. Obviously ran the track today and was, despite having some issues, was still had a solid finish. Looked pretty good. And I just, I think come race day he'll be fine.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I'm going to do exactly what I talked about, the contrarian play of Chris Buescher.
Okay.
I think the salary savings is too good to pass up at where he's starting and knowing where he's finished at these kinds of tracks this year and just recently is too good a value.
Okay, I'm going to hit Daniel Suarez. I think he can still win. I like him.
And that's good exposure to Trackhouse, who
Exactly.
regardless of what happened practice and qualifying, they've been so strong.
If we're not going to go Chastain, I think Suarez is the move. So it leaves a little salary on the table, gives us some, a little bit of difference, and I think
this is perhaps our most mismatched lineup we've built this year with like no like structure to it. It's just, oh yeah, we like this guy, we think this guy's good without like building on a team or particular.
Yeah, no, I think like obviously last week we stacked the Toyotas and it made sense for a reason, right? But each week every race is so independent of each other. It's not like when you do NFL DFS or NFL best ball where you really want to stack, you want to get the quarterback, because if the quarterback has a good game, then his receivers are going to have a good game. Then tight end. This is obviously having if your car is running well, a lot of times your teammates will run well, but there's no guarantees. We saw Alex Bowman car catch on fire last week while Chase Elliott won the race. So, just because you're Team Hendrick doesn't mean there's any, sort of correlation, but look for strong drivers, decent road course success, decent results in 2022, and starting far enough back where they can make up points and be interesting come the end. So I think this is a fun lineup. I'll stick it in. We'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. Let's head over to the betting board and look at those odds, because the odds, they are a moving, and we can find some values potentially. Obviously, Chase is still your favorite. Larson at 6 and 7 is interesting. I don't know if I can do it.
I just don't know if Larson is to that level yet. Like we've seen him win this year, but he hasn't looked like the guy that we saw last year, and he hasn't looked as one of the most consistent guys on track from week to week. So yeah, he performed really well in Xfinity, but in this new next gen car, he has not looked like one of the top echelon drivers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think it's interesting that Chase Briscoe is priced here.
Well, I think he squashed any like worries about him coming into this week. He looked great. there's something to be said about him on road courses here in particular. I mean, top practice speed, top qualifying speed before Elliott, and 8.5 to 1. I don't know if I can get there with him. I got it at 30 to 1. So I mean, you won't see me go back to the board with him.
That's the value right there. That's our Christopher Bell qualifying special. Then you go sell that ticket, get your money, and move on.
Yeah.
Chastain is still interesting.
You get a little bit of value, 10 to 1 now. I got it at 8.5 to 1. I think that's still a good number for him.
Cindric is, I think, interesting, but like you said with Briscoe, the numbers move too much. I'm not getting there. Even with Tyler Reddick, like he ran today, and I expected him to perform a little better. He had some car issues early and kind of was out of it quickly, but is it weird to you that Tyler Reddick was, I think, 16 to 1 to win the race today in Xfinity, and he's 12 or 13 tomorrow?
Honestly, not so much. I think it has a lot to do with the equipment that he's driving. I mean, they know in the Cup Series, he's driving probably a lot better equipment, and he's a lot more familiar with the car. I actually kind of like that number, that 13 to 1. I mean, Reddick, again, he was my best bet to top 10, which I thought that number was ridiculous, close to even. And he had the second fastest practice speed. He qualified fourth. I don't see any reason to think he's not going to finish close to the top of the field, and getting him at 13 to 1 especially is a good number right now for me.
I'm going to put an Alex Bowman outright on the card. I feel like he is trending in the right direction. I know last week was a mess. Qualified well. I liked him coming into qualifying, and yet his number is like 20. Like if you can get a 20, I think you should jump on it. When we're talking 15, 16, then I'm kind of out. But if you can get a solid 20, I will take a look at that as well. I think he's poised, Brian. I think he had the chance to. Of course, driver averages is down, so all of my numbers are gone. But that's okay. But yeah, no, I just think it's an interesting number. I think he's in a compelling spot, and we've seen the recent success of Hendrick, and I think it might be his turn to cash another ticket.
Oh yeah, for sure. Bowman, last year he was actually one of my favorite like road racers to wager on, because he had some ridiculous streak where it was like 14 or 12 or 14 consecutive road courses where he had finished 14th or better, and he hadn't finished below that in like the last 12 or 14 in a row. So I mean, he's constantly close to the top 10. He's a guy who can back his way into wins, as we've seen before. So I mean, he's on Hendrick. They always bring top equipment to the track every weekend. So why not take a shot with him at such a long shot number?
Yep. And if you didn't join us on Wednesday, our show bet was Alex Bowman versus Chase Briscoe. So I'm obviously team Alex Bowman. Brian is team Chase Briscoe. Obviously after qualifying, he's feeling pretty good about that, but yeah. Let's keep it pushing and go down. Dinger 16, 15. If you can get this 25, go grab it. But we don't use this when we make bets for the show, just because they don't feel real.
Yeah.
I think this range is compelling.
I honestly Martin Truex Jr. He's a guy who 25 to 1. That's a good number, but I mean, we haven't seen him be the road racer that he was, I mean, a couple of years ago. So it's hard to get there with him. And then, I mean, Kyle Busch having to start from the back. Denny has not been one of the best on these kinds of tracks. And it's hard to get to any of these guys in these 20 to 1 numbers unless you feel extremely confident about them and they showed something, which the Toyotas did not.
Yeah. So Suarez, I bet at, what did I get him at? 18. So you can get a 20. I think it's worthwhile. You can get a 28, like run, don't walk. But once again, Sugar House isn't a book we actually use on the show. We like to give you the best numbers. Kyle Busch, man, that is. I mean, I already have the 11, so you can get 22. I know, like you said, I'm looking for some official on the back end. Seeing if Bob Pockrass has tweeted out anything about for sure information on for Kyle Busch, but I just I liked him a lot coming in. Yep. So confirmed, Brian. Engine change for Kyle Busch. He'll drop to the rear. So you don't love to see that, but
and honestly too, I would hold off on making any outrights on him because the markets are going to have to adjust. I guarantee you tomorrow morning that number's probably going to get closer to 25, I would say. I mean, starting from the rear of the field, and it's probably a lot harder to move up.
I think I think if you can get north of 20, I think you should do it. And in fact, I have a unit on 11-1. You know what? No, I'm going to practice what I preach. I said last week that I'm going to limit my outrights. It ended up being a great week for me. Still have Kyle Busch on there, but if you can get him at 20, north of 20, I think you do it. I obviously you guys are listening on Sunday morning, so if it's closer to 25,
definitely,
I think it's worthwhile. I think between the ability to move up when cars are pitting under green, I think his ability to just be a really good driver, and I expect at the end of the day he'll be in the conversation, have a real chance to win this race. So if you can get north of 20, I think you do it. I'm kind of with you on Hamlin and Truex. Like, they're fine, especially if you can get the bigger numbers, but it's just not something I need to be a part of. Interesting to see Suarez's numbers really haven't moved. Like, I got him at 18 and he's 16 in a couple places. So that tells you that despite where he's starting, it's still close enough where people aren't really worried about it.
Yeah, I can't get there with Bell. I mean, the Busch number is intriguing, but knowing that you could have gotten that at a much larger number earlier in the week is not something I'd touch. One of the guys that I did add, just a quarter unit, William Byron, 40-1.
Yeah.
He's too good to pass up that number. I know he's starting pretty far back in the field. I think it's 29th or so, but look at the difference between DK and BetMGM and FanDuel and PointsBet still. I mean, that you're betting the number at that point, and just for a quarter unit, like, there's a potential of a huge payday there.
And I think for me, like Kyle Busch, William Byron, some of the names we talked about, even Kevin Harvick, I'm gonna look at the head-to-head. I'm gonna look at the finishing position and look for ways to get value on them, because they're gonna be in head-to-heads. They're gonna be underdogs, and I think they will be fine come race day. Even Kurt Busch, we talked a little bit about him. Cole Custer, he ran really well in Xfinity. He is, if they can keep his brakes in his freaking car, then maybe we'll actually have a chance to cash some tickets, but that's okay. Let's flip over. Let's go to the NASCAR Cup Series, and let's look at some driver props, because I think head-to-heads are more fun. We can look at some top 10s before we get out of here, but I want to look at the props because I want to see if we can't find some interesting numbers. Like, here we go. Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, both minus 110. That is interesting. We got, I don't know. Oh, you didn't jump on this one. I jumped on this. Daniel Suarez versus Kyle Busch. I got it at plus 120. Now it's minus 110 both ways. So that's just going to be a pass for me, but still interesting. If you liked Kyle Busch, you're getting a much better number now. So, and he could easily move up 15 spots and overtake Suarez and be fine. So that's a decent number if you like that. Blaney and Truex. Larson plus 120 over Chase Elliott minus 140. That is interesting considering they're both starting 1 and 3.
I don't trust what I've seen out of Larson to finish ahead of Chase Elliott, who's coming off of a victory. I mean, he qualified on pole. He won here last year. I don't know.
That's
It's hard for me to get to Larson right now.
completely fair. Christopher Bell now up here. Pretty sure it was the other way when we talked on Wednesday. Kind of interesting. Austin Cindric versus Tyler Reddick. You like Tyler Reddick plus 100 just to go against Cindric. Both starting plenty high. That's a good number.
Yeah, they're starting 4 and 5. I think because I'm already in bed with Reddick for 5 units on that top 10. I'm going to avoid going back to the well with him to avoid too much exposure to one guy, as we've seen multiple times before that bite us in the ass. So
yeah, no, that's fair.
We're trying to get a little smarter with these.
I'm already on the fade Chase Briscoe train, so I'm gonna go Austin Cindric.
I mean, that one, if I didn't have an outright on Briscoe and like Briscoe to beat Bowman and Briscoe to top 10, I know Cindric can still finish ahead of him and Briscoe still hit all of those, but I'm not gonna go against my guy like that.
It's a nice way to get that little bit of a hedge. Bowman versus Busher, pretty even. That's interesting. Larson minus 130, Chastain plus 110. That is interesting. Especially if you want to fade Kyle Larson.
That next one right there, I just added to my card. I'm hammering that. Busher over McDowell.
Why are they giving us this candy? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't really understand.
Is fine, but he's still Michael McDowell.
Yeah, exactly. Like if this was It's interesting to note though, like these two guys in a head-to-head at a super speedway would be a very even match, and it'd be a toss-up in terms of who I'd want to bet. But on a road course with recent successes, I gotta go Busher.
As I maintain my fade Chase Briscoe train, I'm gonna go with Ross Chastain. Man, I'm on the rhyming train apparently.
And again, those are two guys I have outrights on. I don't know. I don't want to get too exposed.
It's going to be the parents sitting on the sidelines rooting for both your kids and hoping it works
exactly.
out.
Yep.
Interesting. Good numbers here. Let's flip over to FanDuel and see what props they have for us. And then we can hit top 10s. We can get out of here and go find some winners. Okay, let's see. Past group betting. Let's look for head. Here we go. So Kyle Busch versus Martin Truex. That's kind of interesting. I bet this number was a lot higher prior to qualifying. Cindric over Bell. That's interesting. That's pretty big discrepancy.
Yeah, that's a good number on Bell, but I mean, Cindric
Reddick is minus 112 against William Byron, and Reddick starting 5th, and Byron starting 29th.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Just know though that just means that they're expecting Reddick to probably crash this race.
Yeah, or Byron to make up for his. It's very, very, very interesting, Brian. Very, very interesting. Let's look at the top 10 market and see.
You know what? Just to get a little risky this week, I'm going to go back to FanDuel, and I am going to add my boy Christopher Bell at plus 112 over Austin Cindric. Getting that over even money here is something I'll almost always take on a driver I really like, and I think the fervor for Austin Cindric may be a little bit too strong heading into this weekend, especially since he hasn't really performed that well since Daytona.
Fair. That's completely fair. I am pulling up the top 10 odds to see if there is any value. Daniel Suarez, the top 10. God, I want that number. I'm going to take the minus 140. Because I still believe. And they didn't really do that much that makes me go, you know what? He just doesn't have it this week. I just need a top 10. I don't need a top 2, although I would like a win. That would be very nice. You can get William Byron to top 10 at plus 150 over at DraftKings.
Already added. Already added.
I'm gonna roll with you on that one because that is a good number.
Yeah, I think too. You're gonna see as you get a little bit lower here. Sometimes you just got to catch the books while they're sleeping. I mean, like for instance, Kurt Busch. Now you can get him at plus 150 over at DK.
Yeah,
And then like Chase Briscoe, if you go down one more guy, he's still listed at minus 150 over at BetMGM and minus 160 at FanDuel still. I
he's
mean,
minus 115 at PointsBet.
like if you can get that number, you need to bet that.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah, even though I am on the Fade Briscoe train, I still think that is a good number.
yeah, and the one that I'm adding right there is Chris Buescher plus 125 to top 10 at FanDuel. DK has him adjusted at minus 140, so I think you're getting a fantastic number.
Yeah, and like we have Buescher versus McDowell in a head-to-head, right? And Buescher is like plus 100 or minus 140, and even minus, and then the 120s, and then McDowell is like 20 points higher on almost every book.
Yep.
Yet they're even on a head-to-head. The math doesn't make sense to me.
And that's the last one. That's the last one I added.
Is that a real number? Tell me that's
yes, it is a real
okay.
number. I checked it. Austin Dillon top 10,
yeah,
8-1.
I mentioned this on Wednesday. On Wednesday I added Austin Dillon to top 10, 3-1 to top 10 at 3-1. Today it's 8-1. And I'm gonna pull up the tweet that helped get me there, just so I can give you the official thing. This is per iFantasy Race. Where is it? Bear with me. Come on, man. Okay, but yeah, like Brian, just go ahead and talk for a second while I find this tweet.
Yeah, the fact that Austin Dillon has been moved to 8-1 over at DraftKings while his number still stays at that 3 or 3.1 to 1 odds is something that maybe DraftKings made a mistake. But I mean, when you see those kinds of numbers, this is the reason why we say shop around and then also bet the number, not necessarily the driver or the team or the prop. Like sometimes the number is there for the taking, and even if it's too good to be true, sometimes these things actually pan out in your favor.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Okay, come on now.
I mean, even the Cole Custer number right below that at plus 425 at BetMGM when he's 3-1 or plus 150 at DK right now, that's a number 2. Like, I don't necessarily have a lot of confidence in Cole Custer, especially after watching him in the Xfinity race, but you're getting almost $3 added to the juice here, and that's something that you don't normally see at the window. So you need to take advantage of these kinds of potential winnings.
So I'm just going to try and go from memory because I can't find the tweet. But basically, if you take out the Indy road course, Austin Dillon has finished between 10th and 15th in every road course race with an average finish of 12 point something, and has finished 10th and 11th in the 2 road courses this year. 8-1 is worth a drop in the bucket. Like even if it's just a quarter unit, a tenth of a unit.
Yep.
8-1 to finish top 10, I think is very, very live. I'm not expecting him to win the race. I'm not really expecting him to even flirt with winning the race. I just think he can be 10th or 9th and cash an 8-1 ticket for you. So
exactly. And that's the bet on that. It's not even I feel that confident in him top 10ing. It's the fact that he has the ability to top 10 and he's done it before. So getting that 8-1 number is far too good.
Yeah, and he has moved up 10 spots. And as you see, we put him over here over on DraftKings. So Brian and I are both on board with him moving up, with him doing stuff. Cole Custer at 425 to top 10 at BetMGM is going to go on the card. I think that's a bad number. I know he burned me today, but old Cole is going to come through tomorrow for me to top 10. You can get 425. I think it's worthwhile. If you can get 150, it's a number to run away from. So that is it. Brian Twining, we ran through the odds. Is there anything else you want to look at before we give the people the best bet?
No,
Or I guess
I
we
think.
should let me pull up our card so we can show
Oh yeah,
people
yeah.
where it's at.
We can recap here.
And kind of break it down. So right now I have Kyle Busch at 11-1 from Wednesday. I have Daniel Suarez at 18-1 from Wednesday. I added Alex Bowman at 20-1. 3/4 of a unit on those, a 1-1, and then Austin Dillon half a unit at 3-1. Austin Dillon half a unit 8-1. Kurt Busch at top 10 was my best bet at plus 100. It is now plus 150. So if you wanted to jump on board, now is even a better time. I have Suarez over Kyle Busch at plus 120. I have Kyle Busch over Ross Chastain at plus 105. Not loving that, but that's okay. This is some of the gambles you take when you bet prior to qualifying. Bowman over Briscoe, Cindric over Briscoe, Buescher over McDowell, Chastain over Briscoe, Daniel Suarez top 10, William Byron top 10, and Cole Custer top 10. Brian, break down the card for the people.
Yeah, early in the week I had only 2 outrights: Ross Chastain at 8.5-1 and Chase Briscoe at 30-1, which is looking at a tremendous potential value here. I added William Byron at 40-1 today. Earlier in the week, I had Briscoe top 10 at minus 115, and my best bet for the week was Tyler Reddick to top 10, also at minus 115, with both of those being humongous values looking at it now.
Yep,
The
and
show
that's
bet and
why we jump
yes,
in on Wednesdays, because even when you get burned once in a while with like a Kyle Busch, you
yes,
get some other potential rewards with Briscoe, with Tyler Reddick.
exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then the show bet plus just one of the wagers that I really like: Chase Briscoe over Alex Bowman. I had Chastain over Larson, which I lost a little bit of juice there, but that's fine. Today I added Austin Dillon to top 10 at 8-1. William Byron the top 10 at 1.5-1, which is really interesting considering he's starting 9 spots behind Austin Dillon. Uh, Chris Buescher to finish ahead of McDowell. Christopher Bell to finish ahead of Cindric over at FanDuel at plus 112. And then Chris Buescher to top 10 at plus 125 at a single unit.
Okay, so there's one thing left to do. We got to give the people our best bet. But before we do that, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you let us know down in the comments your favorite bet for Sunday's race, whether it's an outright, whether it's a head-to-head, whether it's a top 10, top 5, whatever it may be. Also subscribe if you haven't done so. We're marching towards 500. I'd like to give away this Christopher Bell signed mini helmet. For those of you that don't know, I'd like to get to 500 subs by the NASCAR playoff, which, it sounds like a lot, but we were able to jump up a lot last time. So, and if we get a Christopher Bell win at some point, maybe I'll just give it away. I don't know. Make sure you subscribe so you can be in the giveaway when that happens. Brian Twining, what is your best bet for Sunday's race?
Well, you just said his name a bunch of times there, and I'm going to say it one more time. Probably my favorite driver in the Cup Series right now, Christopher Bell, to finish ahead of Austin Cindric. I know it doesn't look like that's a possibility after practice and qualifying, but getting it at that plus 112 number, I think, is too good for me to pass up. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add a couple of units there. I'm going to go heavy with this for 3 units.
Woo! I like where your head's at. I think you're wrong, but that's okay. I expect Cindric to have a nice day. So,
oh, and I will also piggyback this. Another reason why I'm going big on this is because I am extremely excited to be watching this at the Caesar Sportsbook tomorrow morning in Las Vegas. So if you're there, or if you're going to be in the area, maybe you can come by, say hello, or you're just going to hear me yelling and screaming for Christopher Bell in the casino.
Yes, Brian will be posted up all day long. He will be there watching baseball, watching NASCAR. So if you are in town, go say hello, go bother him, go tell him how much better I am at NASCAR betting than he is. For my best bet, I had from last week, it was Kyle Busch top 10. I still like that a lot. I'm going to add the Daniel Suarez top 10. I think it's a good number at minus 140. I upped that to 3 units. I think it's worthwhile. I still think he has a decent chance to win the race. I got it at 18-1. Depending on where you look, it's either a little bit higher, a little bit lower. But I'm a big fan of him and big fan of Trackhouse this weekend, even with the less than ideal qualifying for both he and teammate Ross Chastain. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Make sure you are back with us on Thursday. We will be in your feed recapping all that was the Kwik Trip, as well as getting it ready for next week's race. And then obviously we are back here each and every Sunday morning. If you, like I mentioned, if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't hit the bell notification, you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do all three of those. It takes you 10 seconds, does a lot for us. And maybe you win a Christopher Bell signed mini helmet. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the race, and we'll talk to you guys next time.